What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Today I would like to discuss some Irish fighters with you. Specifically Jimmy McLaurin, babyface assassin, a real stand-up individual. He was born in County Down, Ireland. Family brought him over to Vancouver, Canada when he was a baby. You see, I had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy McLaurin on several occasions. I can tell you stories about Jimmy McLaurin that you cannot possibly read in articles or history books at all. You see, I sat down with Jimmy McLaurin many times for at least an hour each time. I met him at various dinners and banquets, Hall of Fames, and other meetings. I was at his induction of the Hall of Fame in Canastota, New York. You see, Jimmy McLaurin was a two-time world welterweight champion, split the title with Chicago's own Barney Ross, defeated 13 world champions. He turned professional December 19th, 1923 with a first-round knockout. He was in the ring 3 times with flyweight champion Fidel LaBarba. He lost his first world championship title bout to Hall of Fame Sammy Mendel. In the meetings with Jimmy McLaurin, he would discuss some of the great Jewish fighters that he knocked out. Sid Terrace, Ruby Goldstein, Al Singer. We had conversations on his victory against Southpaw young Corbett III. And it was fascinating to hear his story about that fight, because many fighters could not defeat the Southpaw young Corbett III. Young Corbett III would defeat Jackie Fields, who defeated young Jack Thompson. I had the pleasure of meeting Jackie Fields. He would retire in Las Vegas, Nevada. Had great conversations with him as well. But Jimmy McLaurin was exceptional. He was very private. Told me some very personal stories. See, he had 2 fights with Billy Patron, known as the Fargo Express. Defeated him twice. Billy Patron was one of the most vicious body punchers in boxing history. He had 2 fights with Tony Canzoneri, having ranked number 9, along with Benny Leonard and the Scotchwalk Johnny Dundee. Fascinating fighter was Tony Canzoneri. He had his 3 great wars with Barney Ross. He would win 1 and lose 2. And he told me that Barney Ross was very witty, great stamina, and he had very, very good breath control. But he had his last fight with Lou Ambers. And he explained to me how that was a passing of the torch. And he knew what it was like. Because on October 7th, 1932, he remembers when he defeated Benny Leonard, who was his idol. Knocked him out in the 6th round in a technical knockout. See, Benny Leonard had 209 total fights, 20 victories, 68 knockouts. He had 1 draw. He was stopped 4 times himself, once to Jimmy McLaurin. Leonard had 115 no-decision bouts. Based on what record book you read or historical content you listen to, his record could vary. But he told me that Benny Leonard was one of the hardest punchers that he has ever met. You see, Benny Leonard lost his money in the stock market in 1929. Almost $500,000. And he had to make a return go. And he entered the sport that he knew best. And he would have a couple of fights before he would meet Jimmy McLaurin. And McLaurin didn't want to face him, as he told me, because he admired him so much. But when he knocked out Jimmy McLaurin, knocked out Benny Leonard, he said, I did that because I had to. I couldn't control Benny Leonard. He said, when he hit me in the jaw, it felt like my teeth were shattering in the wind. He said Benny Leonard was one of the hardest punchers, if not the hardest puncher that he has ever faced. He had draws with Fidel LaBarber, Memphis Power Moore. He also credited with defeating fighters such as Fidel LaBarber. Los Angeles, January 13th, 1925, defeated him in 10 rounds. Teddy Silver, Los Angeles, California, March 27th, 1925, defeated him in 10 rounds. He would face Charles Bud Taylor, Vernon, California, June 2nd. He would lose to him in 10 rounds. Then he would face him again December 8th, and he would defeat him on a foul. He would face Jackie Fields, Los Angeles, California, November 12th, 1925, and he would knock him out in 2 rounds. And he said that made his day because Jackie Fields had lost to a man that he defeated, Southpaw's Young Corbett III. And Jackie Fields would switch victories with young Jack Thompson. Jackie Fields was quite some fighter. He would face Bud Taylor again, Vernon, California, January 12th, 1926. Lost him in 10 rounds. Johnny Farr, Los Angeles, California. He would lose to him in 10 rounds. Doc Sneal, Hollywood, California. Lose to him in 10 rounds. He told me that Doc Sneal is very unorthodox, but he just couldn't get himself together in that fight. He told me about the fight in 1927. He knocked out Sid Terrace, Madison Square Garden, February 21st. In 1929, he lost 15 rounds to Sammy Mendel, March 29th, 1929. But it was no shame to losing to Sammy Mendel because Sammy Mendel was knocked out himself by Al Singer in 1 round. A few months later, Al Singer was knocked out by Tony Canzoneri in 1 round. And Jimmy McLaurin had defeated Tony Canzoneri. Funny how that works. He would knock out Phil McGraw and be stopped by Ray Miller. Now, Ray Miller was from Chicago, and I asked Jim McLaurin about that. He told me that Ray Miller was some puncher. You see, Ray Miller had a knockout machine record in Chicago, putting everybody to sleep. And Ray Miller was a good humanitarian. He was a referee for Joey Maxim and Sugar Ray Robinson at Yankee Stadium. It's 104-degree heat. Ruby Goldstein, who he would also knock out, would have to be replaced by Ray Miller. Jim McLaurin would defeat Billy Patrol and Benny Leonard. He would retire with a career record of 55, 11, and 3. He'd be introduced into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1996. You see, I was at his induction to the Hall of Fame in New York. He was in a wheelchair. And you don't know what it's like to meet certain fighters until you actually meet them. Fighters of the past that I have met. Sugar Ray Robinson and Henry Armstrong. Just to name a few. And I had the conversations with them that would live with me forever. Ring Magazine rates Jim McLaurin number 5 as the greatest welterweight champion of all times. I have him ranked number 10, greatest welterweight of all times. And there were hundreds of welterweights. Tommy Hearns. I mean, just to name a few. Emil Griffith. So number 10 is not a bad place to be selected. One of the greatest fighters in the history of the game was the great Jimmy McLarnin. Unbelievable fighter he was. Shout out to Jimmy McLarnin. Shout out to Benny Leonard, Tony Canzoneri, Rocky Kansas, Sid Terrace, Ruby Goldstein, Sammy Mendel, Billy Patrol and Bat Ballino, The Kid Chocolate, Cuban Bong Bong. Henry Armstrong would come along and dominate that welterweight division. But while in the ring, Jimmy McLarnin was a force to be reckoned with. Thanks for hanging in there with me. All great fights and all great fighters would never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to Jim McLarnin, the babyface assassin, one of the greatest fighters of all times. Next video, I would talk about the toy bulldog, Mickey Walker.